Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Jakob Gille. A couple of words before I dive into my presentation. A couple of words about me. So I'm a composer, electroacoustic music composer, and I specialize in my work in the work with ambisonics, so spatial audio and especially ambisonics. I studied classical composition in Dresden, Germany, and also computer music and sound art at the IEM in Graz in Austria. In my own compositional work, binaural playback plays an important role. For example, to work while traveling or when I don't have a dedicated loudspeaker setup, then of course binaural playback is important, probably for us all. Headphones are omnipresent everywhere. So it's interesting how we can deal with it and with binaural conversions. The context of my work was this wonderful platform called soundingfuture.com by Frank Zimmer. It's a platform to explore articles by artists and developers on music and audio technologies, and also to learn how to work with 3D audio in the super new learning lab. And we have this 3D AudioSpace where you can explore multi-channel electroacoustic compositions. And now we have close to 400 compositions on the platform from around 300 composers. So quite high numbers there, and it's really a lovely platform to explore 3D audio music. So Frank approached me to work with him on this 3D AudioSpace and on the binaural conversion, and we developed together a workflow that tries to deliver a convincing binaural representation of the compositions while also preserving the compositional intent. So we get the multi-channel compositions from the composers and we convert them manually to binaural. So with binaural playback, we have a couple of problems to tackle first that are well known. So like in-head localization, so missing externalization of the sound. Front-back confusion is really severe, so that I can't be sure if sounds come from front or from the back. Also other problems as well, maybe like something like room divergence effect. So I'm listening to a reverb from a big church, but I'm sitting just in my small room. This doesn't go well together. So these things are known. And also a couple of solutions. So we have personalized HRTF measurements. Of course, we are also looking into personalizing generic HRTF measurements, which is also interesting. We have head trackers. I'm showing here like the one from Waves, the Subaware, and also the Apple AirPods Pro have it now built in. And we also have virtualization. And this is especially interesting, in my opinion, and point that we focused on in our binaural conversion workflow, because we can't be sure that people have head trackers or that they have their own measured HRTFs. So we looked into binaural virtualization. So this means basically we are not only decoding directions, but actually simulate the whole acoustic room with all its characteristics. And this adds really important information about the room, and then in turn can improve localization and also externalization. You're probably also familiar with binaural impulse responses, which I'm also like working with. So for example, you can take your own binaural impulse response of a concert hall that you will be working in later, and then you can have a simulated version of the concert space, which can help in the compositional process to already get a picture and image of how it will probably sound. Of course, it's not the same, but you can get quite close to it. We are using software for this, so not binaural impulse responses, but something similar. On the platform, we are offering 3 different versions that you can listen to, and down on the right side, you can select it, which you prefer. So of course, stereo. And I will come to the specifics in a minute, what we are doing, what we're using for this. We have the typical binaural format, which we just achieved with binaural decoding, so which you're probably familiar from ambisonic signals. And the interesting part is binaural plus. This is our virtualized version. And we figured it's best to offer these 3 different formats because opinions on that are quite strong, I think. So people think, no, I don't want to have any added room information on my compositions, obviously. So please don't give me some added information with that, but just dry binaural basically. But you can always select as a listener, and when composers telling us, so I don't want to have this format to be selected, or I do my own binaural conversion, of course, then we choose just that. So yeah, let's have a look. Oh no, before we look into the workflow that we figured out, I want to quickly talk about the different formats that we are getting. And of course, I'm biased. I studied at the IEM, which has quite a big focus on ambisonics, of course. So I'm an ambisonics fan basically, but I also have other reasons to be a fan of ambisonics because it's often so much easier to work with, especially in workflows like this. So when we look at channel-based formats, okay, stereo, we cannot do much with it. It's not a 3D audio format, but we have the Dolby formats that are multiple existing. And so I have to know beforehand what was it, 5.1 or whatever. But then there's also differentiation between film and SMPTE channel ordering, which I also have to know because as you can see, like the center channel is at a different position. So that can be annoying if I don't know this. And also the Dolby standard is not so super clearly defined in terms of angles, which is maybe not a big problem, but still something to know. More problematic are the classic quadraphonic and octophonic layouts, for me at least, because I have to know what is the configuration. As you can see, it's a little bit dark and small, but you can see the typical quadraphonic layout with left and right speakers, but you also have this cross layout where one speaker is in the center. It's probably a bit more rare, but sure, you could do that. Octophonic layouts as well. So where you have one center channel or you don't have it basically. And then there's the channel numbering. Is it clockwise, anti-clockwise or pairwise? So we always have to ask the artists, give us a sketch of your configuration so we don't make it right, of course. So, but when I get an ambisonics piece, we don't have these questions. It's like everything is well defined and I just have to decode it in a way that I need it. And as you know, you bring an ambisonics piece to a concert space, they do the decoding over there. So you don't have to care about the decoding step or about the loudspeaker setup. The people doing the concert, they have to wonder about this. And this is the same for me. So this is why I'm always happy when I get ambisonics pieces because there are no questions. It's all quite clear. And you see some other reasons for this, but I don't want to now start this discussion, ambisonics versus channel-based formats. So let's have a look at the workflow. So yeah, it looks a little bit complicated, but I can, of course, walk you through what we are doing here. So you probably can't see my mouse, but I will just mention what I'm talking about. So we get the channel-based compositions, and we could directly decode them to stereo, for example. So we want to get out of our conversion these 3 different formats, stereo, binaural, and binaural plus. So how can we do that? There are dedicated plugins that can convert to binaural, like from waves, as you can see there. So we take a Dolby format, 5.1, and we get out a binaural format. We did a lot of testing. I have to say not formal, but informal testing together with Frank. Also, I talked with Franz Sotter. I talked to Jakob Gille, who is, by the way, also behind APL from Virtuoso, which I'll also talk about in a minute. But we never really liked the sound that we got out of these dedicated plugins. So we went or took the route through ambisonics, which seems a bit unusual, but it worked best for us. So we take the channel-based compositions and we upmix them basically to ambisonics. For this, we're using this plugin from Blue Ripple Sound. Always other options as well, but this worked best for us. There were always a lot of questions to solve. First, we have here different modes, inferred, studio, virtual, that we had to check out to land on the best solution. then we are on the ambisonics domain and everything gets much easier. So we can, for stereo, can use this old format of UHJ. We're also using a plugin from Blue Ripple to get the stereo decoding, which works quite well. I really like the sound of this decoding method. Then the simple route is through the binaural decoder to get to binaural. And we can use different ones there. The one from IM, the one from Sparta. We have also many options there, especially with Sparta, which order, which generic HRTF set to choose. I mean, we cannot really choose one. It's for everybody. Some are working, some are not working. We cannot be sure. It's like the one from IM and Sparta, they only differentiate themselves with the generic HRTF set. Actually, the underlying technique is the same. And now it gets interesting with Binaural Plus. So we choose Virtuoso from APL. Was just most practical. Many options that we had there. And I will come to this plugin in a minute. So let's go to the workflow when we get ambisonics compositions. A lot of things are easier, but not everything. So for stereo output, we can still, again, choose a UHJ decoder and the binaural decoder. And now we want to work with Virtuoso as well for the virtualization. So just a short words about Virtuoso. It simulates a studio space with all reflection, as I said before. And it works with a virtual loudspeaker setup that we can choose. So, and now we have the questions, which setup are we choosing for the ambisonics pieces. So when I go back, of course, you see here 5.1 setup in Virtuoso. I can just select it because my channel-based composition was written in 5.1. But for ambisonics, this is not the case. So we have to decode the ambisonics pieces to the same virtual loudspeaker setup we are choosing in Virtuoso. We landed on this 26-point Lebedev loudspeaker configuration, which is quite dense, and it's full sphere, which is probably nice for binaural, and had some other advantages. So we had to also check out which room geometry and characteristics we are choosing. We are now using the one from APL, their studio space, because it was not too small, not too big, and not too bright, and the reflections that are not overlaying too much. There are also the virtual reverb that is already used in the composition, So that was tricky, but we talked with Gille, especially when it comes to the decoding part. So we are using a Sparta ambisonics decoder, and we are decoding to this 26-point Lebedev design. Now we have to select which ambisonics decoding method to choose. So when we are working in a concert space, most of the time we are now working with the Allrad approach from IM. But for, homogenic full sphere layouts, we can also choose the older decoding methods, like sampling ambisonics decoding or energy preserving decoding and so on. And we chose sampling ambisonics decoding in this case. It sounded good, it worked well, and Gille also said, that should be a good option, and some other small details. And then, of course, we decode. Now that's actually also a question to which order then to decode. The same order from the ambisonics composition, probably yes, but there can be also other possibilities. I think we are now using always the same order of the compositions, of the original compositions. So, and then we get out our binaural plus signal with a virtualized room on top of the composition, which helps again with externalization, maybe even localization accuracy, but you have more the impression of actually sitting in a studio, basically in a concert space, and not sound all in your head and super dry with a normal binaural decoding. So that's the added benefit. Of course, there are also other options in Virtuoso from DLVR, from Immerse, which are also fine, but Virtuoso was just most complete and working well for us. Yeah, so that's basically about the workflow that we are now using. That works well for us. We're also getting good feedback. And yeah, as I said, if you don't like the virtualization approach, which I can completely get, we have two other options as well to choose. And yeah, please go ahead, check out this video AudioSpace at soundingfuture.com. And yeah, thank you for your attention.